In the summer of 2019, I rode Hagrid's Magical Creatures motorbike adventure for my very first time, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was impossible for Universal to make a ride better than this. On the same day, I saw the plot for the new rumored roller coaster coming to the Jurassic Park section of Islands of Adventure for the very first time. 9 months later, the plot wouldn't change that much, as the park closed for the pandemic. Now, when it reopened, I bought an annual pass and saw the track for the new coaster, and I was in awe. As time went on, I would see the ride finish construction, test, and just the other day, I rode the new for 2021 Jurassic World VelociCoaster for the very first time. Before I even dive into the attraction, let me just say that this is one out of a few attractions that isn't just a ride. It's an experience. The only other rides I can truly call experiences are Hagrid's and Rise of the Resistance. Now, I say this for a few reasons. 1. This ride isn't like any other ride in the country. The best way I can describe it is to imagine if you took Maverick and Hagrid's and blended them together. That's the best way to compare VelociCoaster. Other than that, it really is in its own category. Plus, the layout is so unique. It has a lot of common elements like a wave turn, top hat, dive loop, and airtime hills, but those are elements you see on separate coasters. You don't see RMCs having top hats, you don't see B&Ms with wave turns, you don't see Premiers with dive loops. Only Intamin could really make a ride like this. I can't think of another coaster that has a top hat, a zero-G stall, and a heartline roll all in the same layout. The experience really begins the second you walk past that sign. That has to be one of the best directional signs I've seen, ever. Then you are greeted with 2 raptor statues overlooking the stall. For those who didn't know, this entrance actually pays homage to Dueling Dragons when it was over at the Lost Continent. After that, you then walk into the nicest plaza I think I've ever seen. It's open, it's modern, everything looks new and well maintained. Now, I do understand that this ride just opened, but let me tell you, Hagrid's, Mako, and even Icebreaker don't look this nice. It's great for managing the crowds, and it's probably the best entrance I've ever seen. Like, you walk in that area and you are like, wow, this is huge. On one side, you have the Jurassic Park Discovery Center, and then you are greeted with the incredible VelociCoaster entrance that is right next to the 155-foot top hat. I could honestly spend hours in this plaza just watching the coaster cycle through the ride, along with the beautiful light package. Now, let's get to the queue line. There's an extended queue in the back if needed. It's directly under the top hat, and when I rode this for the pass holder preview, it was closed off, but they will use this section especially around the grand opening. After that, you then walk into a large open building that greets you with a beautiful lighting package and a legendary statue. This statue is beautiful, and it has the Velociraptors surrounding the building. Plus, it has this nice statue of the roller coaster right in the middle. It's a great start to the queue line. After that, you continue, and let me just say, this whole queue has an amazing lighting package. It's absolutely incredible. Plus, it has some upbeat background music that just gets you pumped for the ride. The next part of the queue, you can see the launch tunnel for the second launch, and right when you see the train launch, you see some raptors chasing the train. One raptor stays behind and roars at the guests, and then continues to pursue the train. The AR mapping is incredible, plus when the raptor roars, the whole room shakes, and it's honestly quite intimidating. The next room shares the safety information for the ride with its host, Mr. DNA. In this section, there are also lots of Easter eggs pointing towards the Jurassic Park movies. After that, you then enter a raptor enclosure with some of the most realistic animatronics I've ever seen. The sculpting is extraordinary, and the movement, while there isn't much, is super realistic. It's the perfect amount for a locked up raptor. After that, you then enter the locker station, and boy do I love these new lockers. They are like the new system of lockers as seen on rides like the Hulk, but they are double-sided, so you can scan your park ticket on your annual pass and put any loose belongings in the locker. And I'll get to the system a bit later on in the video. After this, you then walk up some stairs and see the pre-show, which explains the ride's storyline, which is Claire, who built a roller coaster in the raptor enclosure, and Owen, who is telling the guests to leave as this ride is dangerous. After that, you then enter the station, which I absolutely love. It's such a wholesome little station. The natural sunlight that pierces through the window along with its modern and open design. I absolutely love it. Overall, the queue line is incredible, and it's my personal favorite at Universal. It's indoors and it's air conditioned. It's not like Hulk where there are windows that get a lot of that hot air in. It's the perfect amount of theming inside that queue line. It is such a quality queue line, and I absolutely enjoyed it. Now, the storyline is pretty weird, and to be quite honest, I still don't get it, but I think with more rides, and if I can actually have time to appreciate the pre-show, then I will probably understand this ride much more. Now, since it was a pass holder preview, I only got to ride it once, and it was in the very back row in the left seat. Now, to say I was excited as I was boarding the train, it would be an understatement. The ride then dispatches and heads towards the first launch. As you enter the show scene, your train rolls back just a couple of feet as mist fills the room. You then see two velociraptors on both sides inside cages. As they start running, the train launches. Even the raptors are on screens. It fits in really well with the ride. It's a great start to the attraction. The first launch is really something. It isn't the most forceful launch out there, but it holds its intensity well, as it consistently accelerates all the way into the first element. The ride then goes through an Immelman, which in my opinion is one of the best inversions ever on a roller coaster. It has some great hang time as you head into it, and when you are sitting in the back, it whips you out of the element so fast that you get a strong pop of airtime coming out of it. To go from hanging upside down to then getting whipped right out of it is a weird sensation. Then the dive loop is really good. Not as snappy, but you get great hang time as you hang upside down over the layout. After that, you go through a small overbank turn and head into possibly the strongest airtime pop on the ride. It's a small but powerful twisted airtime hill. The way it whips you over the hill in the back is phenomenal. After this, you turn through some rockwork, which provides a great near miss, and then you head down into a downwards S-bend. This element didn't do much for me, but I love the near miss with the raptor. This alone was one of the highlights on the ride. After you go through another small overbank turn and head into a transition that I'm honestly surprised no one talks about. It's a quick whip to the right as you come out of the overbank, and it's as strong as the transitions on other rides like Maverick, but with the lap bar. It's super snappy. You then head up into a small outer banked hill, which doesn't do much in my opinion, but the turn heading into the outer bank is very powerful. After the outer bank, you dive down and head into the second launch. The first half is really good. A lot of people diss on it because it looks slow, and the elements aren't as good, but I thought the first half was just as good as the second half. Now, let's talk about the second half. The second launch is really good. Again, not the most intense launch, but it is still super powerful. It doesn't have an initial kick, but it does accelerate throughout the entire launch, and it is quite noticeable. After reaching your top speed of 70 miles per hour on the launch, you head into the tallest element on the ride, and the highlight, the 155-foot top hat, which in my opinion is the best element on the ride. Now in the back, it slowly goes up the top hat since the train is super long, but it gives you enough time to appreciate the view you have of Islands of Adventure. It then gives a quality pop of flowjector airtime as you go down that drop. You get thrown out of your seat, and then you are just floating for a solid 3 seconds. And since the restraint is so open, you get some incredible and graceful airtime. Now this transition at the bottom of the drop is no joke, easily the most intense part of the ride. It transitions once at the bottom of the drop, and again as you head into the zero-G stall. It is super snappy. Now the stall in my opinion was the most underwhelming element on the ride. It didn't hang upside down enough for you to appreciate it, but then again the transition was so strong that you were still recovering from that as you were hanging upside down. Right after, you head into a wave turn. If you have ridden Steel Vengeance and know about that wave turn in the structure, this feels and is shaped the exact same way. It gives a nice little sideways pop of airtime. It's really fun. After this, you head into a second outer banked airtime hill, which is much more snappy than the first one, and you then turn into a large overbank turn, which reminded me of Mako's overbank. Right after, you head into a small little speed hill, which gives a nice little pop of airtime, and you head into one of the best elements on the ride, the Heartline roll, or as Universal is calling it, the Mosasaurus roll. This element is really close to the water, so it feels like you can touch it, and what I love about this Heartline roll is that it goes through the element at a perfect speed. Not too fast for the element to be forgotten like zero-G rolls, but not too slow for you to hang upside down for a long time. It's the perfect speed for you to feel like you're getting whipped through the element along with hanging upside down. You somehow get airtime going through it. I don't know how, but trust me, you'll understand once you ride. After this, you head into another twisted airtime hill, which gives another quality pop of ejector airtime, and you head into the brakes. Plus, you get a small little bonus pop as you head into the brake run. After this, you do a quick little turnaround and slowly head back into the station. Now, before I talk about the ride overall, I have to talk about this amazing system VelociCoaster uses. So when you return to the station, you leave on the other side as you do with most roller coasters, but when you get back to the locker area, it's double-sided. So you're in a whole different section of lockers, but all the lockers have two sides. So that way, both lockers don't get crowded. This is by far the best system for any attraction ever. Every ride should try and execute this system because it worked seamlessly and it was easy to understand. Now overall, VelociCoaster is an amazing ride. Now, if the ride was by itself with no theming, don't get me wrong, it would still be one of my all-time favorite coasters, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as good. In my opinion, it isn't the best layout. For me, the best layout is still Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Even though it's my personal number 3, it has the best layout. So is VelociCoaster my personal favorite roller coaster? Yes. As I said earlier, this isn't any normal attraction, it's a full-on experience. While Hagrid's is as well, that's a family coaster. VelociCoaster is definitely not a family coaster. It's one of the most intense coasters in the state. The highlights for me are definitely going to be the Immelman, Twisted Airtime Hill, Top Hat, and Heartline Roll. These 4 elements stood out, and each of them are some of my all-time favorite elements on a coaster. And the other elements on this ride are still really good. Unlike most coasters, this is one of the only rides I can truly say does not have a dull moment. This ride is action-packed from start to finish. And for anyone who's complaining about the pacing, it may look slow off-ride, but it feels completely different on-ride. In the end, VelociCoaster is my personal favorite coaster. Now, is it the world's best? I cannot judge that since I haven't ridden every coaster outside of the US, but it is definitely a contender. I don't see VelociCoaster being dethroned for a while in my personal rankings, but it always is possible. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my review on the new for 2021 Jurassic World VelociCoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more like it, make sure to like this video and click that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to check out my podcast, On the Hunt. As always, this is Hunter from Theme Park Hunting. I'll see you guys later, and follow the thrill.